Hello, or I should say good Vach, as it's Shabbos has just gone out about an hour and a half ago. It's also Rosh Chodesh Sivan, so we're heading towards Shavuos in just a few days' time. And the shul, our shul, here in Long Island, asked me to be one of the people who put together a little video message leading up to Shavuos. And so I'm very honored and very happy to do so. And of course, it's a unique Shavuos, certainly unique Shavuos in my lifetime. I've never been in a Shavuos in the middle of a pandemic, an epidemic, plague, whatever dramatic word you want to use, but dramatic is particularly appropriate at a time when we've seen so much death and suffering and pain. So it's appropriate to consider perhaps at this particular time, what's that all about? Why are we in a pandemic? Klal Yisrael believes that the Jewish position should always be, what's the message to us? I mean, everybody, I suppose, should consider their own message. But what's the message for Klal Yisrael? What's the message for the Jewish people? Why are we experiencing this? Are we in any way culpable? Is there a particular message for us? So my chavrusa, I'm very fortunate to have 4 or 5 chavrusas, very fine, special people I get to learn Torah with every week. And one of my chavrusas is called Rabbi Yitzchok Young. And Rabbi Yitzchok Young said to me just the other day, he said, I'm not hearing much from the Gedolim, the greats of the generation, as to what that message to us, to the Jewish people is. So if you don't know what the message is, how are you supposed to, as it were, stand and face that message, face the consequences of that message, and try to do something about it? Stand up to the plate, I think, is the American phrase. So I had to agree with them. There is, of course, and you'll probably have come across this, an idea which has been widely publicized and widely supported by rabbis to cut down the number of people who are invited to a wedding to a much more modest total than the general one that historically has taken place, certainly in the United States of America, which have been a land of great blessing to the Jewish people. But maybe, these Rabbonim have said, and I have to admit, I agree, that maybe we've gone a little bit too far. And all my children's weddings, incidentally, were capped at, I think, 200. Being a rabbi, rabbis generally don't earn huge amounts of money. Making a wedding was a struggle. In England, in Gateshead, in Manchester, there are tzedakahs which say, yeah, we'll make the wedding for you, we'll do it for you at cost price. I liked cost price. But 200 people, I think it was 200 people, that's the maximum number of guests. And you know what? They were fabulous weddings. None of my children felt deprived. I didn't feel deprived. I had wonderful Rosh Yeshiva there. It was just as good as before. So that's one message. But I would have to agree that I haven't heard any other specific large messages that have been interpreted from this by the greats of the generation and passed on to the Jewish people as a whole. But my chavrusa, the same chavrusa, pointed out something which the Ohr HaChaim said. Before I tell you what the Ohr HaChaim said, perhaps it would be appropriate for me to take you on a journey. The theme, it's just a pen dropping, the theme that he pursues, and take you to, again, a friend said to me today, we were able to daven in our shul today for the first time in a long time. And a friend of mine said that, it's very strange going back, which it was. He said we've missed the whole of reading the Sefer Vayikra in shul together. In the Seder of B'chukoisai, which we didn't get to read together, and therefore, I suppose, stuck at home, read it at home, and I certainly did. Posuk Perik Kof Vov and B'chukoisai, and Posuk Kof Aleph. Now, B'chukoisai, of course, as you will recall, has got all the frightening threats, or rather consequences, or warnings. That's the best word that Hashem suggests we should pay attention to. Because if we behave in certain ways, there will be consequences. Because if there are no consequences, we don't change our behavior. And if you're going over the cliff, then if somebody doesn't act dramatically to stop you going over that cliff, then you will end in disaster at the bottom. So sometimes you have to act very, very dramatically in order to get a reaction. And so the whole of, not the whole of, but certainly much of the Chochosai is full of a warning about, I might have to intervene dramatically to stop you going over the cliff if you, as it were, are driving in that direction. So the Pasuk says, Im telechu imo keri. In fact, I'll read the whole Pasuk because I think that would be useful. And so, Im telechu imo keri. Pasuk Kaf Aleph. And if you behave, if you go with me, if your relationship with me perhaps is with me, keri. Now, keri is a very hard word to translate. So for just now, let me just not translate it. I'll come back to it in a second. V'lo sa'ivul lishma'ali, and you don't bother yourself to listen to me. And then I will multiply your offense against me 7 times. So that's a big thing. Shlachti bichem is a chayas asadi, and all sorts of wild animals will attack people, etc., etc. And then it goes on again. If you don't, and if you carry on not listening to me, then I will carry on with this carry business. We'll come back to carry in a second. But here's what Rabbeinu Bachya says in that. Zu derech haTorah. This is the approach of a Jew. Kasher yatzlichoi in Yonov shel Odom, v'yotzelo al hanachayna. If your plans work out well, if you invest in the right place and you see a large return for your money, or just generally, maybe you find a nice shidduch for your children, yes, you went about that well, then a Jewish approach, a Torah approach, is to turn around and say to yourself and consider for yourself, you know what? Then a Jew's approach is, you know, that worked out because Hashem made it work out. Of course, I have to put in my bit, make my effort, do my hishtadlus, but still, ultimately, the little pieces that I put there, the building of those pieces into the result that I wanted, that was Hashem's work. A Jew's approach is not because I'm so wonderful, not because I deserve this. No, I don't deserve this. But Hashem gave it to me anyway. But Inyan Shekosov, it says, Lo b'tzedkoscha b'yosher lo v'echad. The Pasuk says, the Jewish approach is, it's Devorim and Tess and Hey. It's not because I was so wonderful, because I'm so holy, that it all worked out for me, because Hashem did this. That's the quintessential Jewish approach to when things go well in our lives. Then he says, V'kasher yovo alov tzores mikrayim sheyodo alai pashoy Hashem. When bad things happen, miyashav ki inza ki elamitzad chetoi. Then this time, instead of, when it's positive, you don't say, that's me. But when it's negative, you have to. A Jewish approach is to say, as the Gemara famously says in Brachos and Daf, hey, something goes wrong in your life, then ask yourself, did I do anything to deserve this? Here, that's the approach. When something good happens, that's Hashem. Something bad happens, maybe that's me. And maybe I should look at myself to see if there's something I should be doing with this. Maybe I did something to provoke this bad thing. And don't think that it's mikra, happenstance. It's just coincidence. It's not connected to me. That's the word keri. Same as mikra. It's just an accident. Don't think that things that happen to you in your life are disconnected from the supervision or the concern of the Almighty, both positively and negatively. That's what it means when the Pasuk says, if you behave with me, bekeri. Keri means thinking that the world happens without Hashem's intervention, supervision, or approval. That's what it's talking about here. And if you carry on factoring me out of your life, then it'll get worse for you. Because if you factor Hashem out of your life, then automatically things are going to get bad for you. So you're going over the cliffs. Hashem has to dramatically pull you back from that cliff edge and from that plunge, which will end, of course, in disaster. Fine. That's what Rabbeinu Bachya says. Rabbeinu Bachya. When I was in Shiva, Rabbeinu Bachya, that sage called Rabbeinu Bachya. I don't mind. The Torah is just as good. But in the same posuk in the Kufvav, then it says in the Ohr HaChaim something slightly different, not too different actually, very similar, but there's a little twist here. Valachti bekeri, and again it's the same word bekeri. Perish. What does that mean? Shelo yovi alehem hayisurim mechavonim al chatosim. Kamoy sha'asem mekaydim she'medi chatosim. When you, as it were, discount Hashem, when you think it's happenstance and nothing to do with Hashem, then how Hashem's going to punish you is in a way which mirrors its mida keneged mida, its irony. That's how you looked at it. That's how the punishment will be. You didn't see elements of your life as coming from Hashem. Well, guess what? Then the punishment will be things will happen to you in your life that you can't put together. You can't add up and get and seem to say, oh, this is the message you're sending me. Because normally that's the way Hashem works. Normally Hashem works that you do get the message. Mida keneged mina normally means, and he reads on and says, and that's why it says in Tehillim, to shalom ish kamasehu, lacho Hashem chesed, to you Hashem is chesed, because you pay a person back for his deeds, mida keneged mina. Because if something happens to me, it's bad, then that allows me to say, hold on, this is not good. But Hashem always works mida keneged mina. So therefore I can say, if this happened to me, I must have done the same thing to something else. I did. Once you give that thought that Rabbeinu Bachya said before and conclude and think to yourself why this happened and come to a discovery, yes, I did do something wrong. Here you'll not be able to do this. Why? Because your sin is that you've factored Hashem out. So Hashem says, if that's what you want, then fine, I'll make sure that it's like that. That I'm not there. So that you can't use the normal formula of saying, oh, let me find out why I did this wrong. No, but you factored me out. So he says, because in that formula, you're allowed to see what caused the problem in the first place. But if the problem is that you want to take God out of the equation, then that's okay. I'm out of the equation. You won't be able to, as it were, put your finger on why I'm upset. After all, you factored me out. And if you go in that way, and you don't consider, you don't join the dots, I'll make it impossible for you to join the dots. Things will happen to you, it'll be impossible for you to join the dots. And he gives examples: cherev, violence; motzer, oppression; bedever, and an outbreak of a pestilence, outbreak of an epidemic, which you'll not be able to figure out what we did wrong to bring this. And of course, the irony is that even within this particular coronavirus, it's one of my friends is in the medical field today. He told me he had to phone somebody up to tell him, I'm very sorry, Mr. Cohen, but you've tested positive for COVID. He said, but I just got the results 3 weeks ago. They should have had the antibodies, which has everybody scratching their heads, and everybody knows that the tests are, it's almost as though this has got a sense of humor, this virus. You think you're immune because you get antibodies? People with antibodies are getting the disease, people who've got the disease don't get any symptoms whatsoever. You can't get your head around this. The medical profession can't get their head around this disease. Kerry, if you don't join the dots, then you'll not be able to join the dots. And so says Rabbeinu Bachya and the Ohr HaChaim. But I'm not one of the greats of the generation. In fact, that would be one of the jokes of the generation to even suggest such a thing. But it did occur to me that it's worthwhile considering that if we can't see, because it's designed in order that we can't see the big picture, we should certainly be able to see the little picture. And as we are days away from Shavuos and Kabbalah Satara, don't forget how Kabbalah Satara works. 600,000 male Jews are standing at Mount Sinai. And they're waiting to get the Torah that they are representing their families. It is as dramatic a sight, terrifying a sight, awesome a sight, as you could possibly imagine. Thunder, lightning. Moshe Rabbeinu's up there and all that sort of stuff. And then they hear Hashem speak. And the first things they hear is, Anachi Hashem Elokecha. I am the Lord your God. But the astonishing thing is, even though 600,000 Jews, it doesn't talk to them in the plural. It doesn't say Anochi Hashem Elokechem. I'm the Lord your God in the plural is Anochi Hashem Elokecho. That means to say that as all of us, even in 2020, were there standing at our Sinai, we didn't quite have bodies to put this into effect yet, but that was addressed to us. That message, Anochi Hashem Elokecho, the one who took you out from Israel, it was addressed to you. Yehudi Yainer Rubinstein, that's me. Yehudi Yainer Rubinstein, Anochi Hashem Elokecho. It was in the singular because every Jew was addressed in the singular. And of course, that's a theme that runs throughout Judaism. We're supposed to say every day, B'shvili nivra olam. Because of me, the world was worth creating. One person. And when it comes to Erev Rosh Hashanah, when the scales are being examined by Hashem for the performance of the Jewish people over the year, then we're supposed to remember, imagine them perfectly balanced. And then along comes one Jew, and can tip the scales positively or negatively. Who is that Jew? ... Fill in your name. One Jew can make all the difference. And the address, the Kabbalah's address to each and every single Jew. And it occurred to me that maybe, as we can't see the big picture, and according to the Ohr HaChaim, we're not going to be able to see the big picture, and if we're having difficulty hearing what the Gedolim are saying in this, and maybe they too are struggling to find a meaning or a distinct message in this one, forget the big picture. Maybe the message is to focus on the little picture, the you picture. And of course, in lockdown, stuck at home, as we have been, then it's a complete invitation to focus on you. What's my relationship with Hashem? When I was davening, got a minion. So sometimes, when you take 3 steps back and 3 steps forward, as we do, as we managed to do today, in a small meeting of 10, with a partial lifting of restrictions in synagogues, then very often we were davening with 10 people, or 100 people, or 200 people, then your davening can sometimes be a little bit, not quite as focused as it should be, but you hope, and indeed, the Sorim say, it can be carried to Shemaim on the backs of everybody else's prayers. But when we're stuck at home, it's just you. It's just you and Hashem. And me. And therefore you have to honestly ask yourself, how good is that prayer? What is my relationship with Hashem? It's just you. We have been completely cut off from each other. That's obviously part of the message. A unique disease that causes us to be at home is an invitation to examine ourselves. As the Gemara says in Brachos. Something goes wrong, you flash for myself. Examine your own deeds. Let the greats of the generation worry about the message to the whole of the Jewish people, but what about you? And, looking back over these 10 weeks or so when we've been stuck at home, the question is, how as a Jew did you react? Did it spur you to do more Jewishly? Did it motivate you to learn more? To do chesed more? Chesed more? You're stuck at home. Yeah, well, there's such a thing as a phone. There were people not too long ago who were sitting at home on Seder night, Pesach, on their own, saying that God, which was very sad, and we talked about that a lot. I talked about this a lot. It was an opportunity to do something. Pick up the phone, write to them, email them, how are you, and phone them afterwards. And there's incredible opportunities for chesed in this terrible situation, even if we were locked away on our own. How did we react? I kind of suspect that was certainly one of the messages, and is one of the messages that's being sent to us now. It's a chance for us to sit at home and say, just now, in these quiet places, these quiet moments, cut off from everybody else. Maybe we're meant to be. Maybe this particular unique sort of disease has and is an invitation to focus on you. Bishvili nivra olam. Really? Are you justifying that statement? Is it really Bishvili? Would the world have been created because of you, the state that you're in? Or maybe you could do more to make it worthy of you. Me too. If Yehudiana Rubinstein coming to Rosh Hashanah, that the scales of the Jewish people were perfectly balanced, if I came along, which pan would I be in? Which pan of the scales would I be sitting in? It's now a time for us and Hashem, you and him, to examine exactly what sort of Jews we are. Have we been behaving bekeri? Have we been factoring him out, making our own calculations? Or have we been joining the dots? If we haven't been joining the dots before, in these 10 weeks, we should certainly have been joining the dots now. And exactly considering, are we factoring Hashem into my life? For 10 weeks, for my mind, that's been the invitation. So now we come to Shavuos. And Shavuos reminds us that. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Yehuda Yoda Rubinstein, or whoever it is who's watching this, fill in your name. I am Hashem. I'm Hashem who wants you to be Makabel the Torah. 10 weeks to consider, and another few days, whether or not we've stepped up to the plate, whether or not we've stepped forward and shouldered that responsibility. And if we haven't, that's okay. As long as we're now going to determine that we will. And if that's the message, and that's the conclusion we reach from 10 weeks of being in isolation, it was certainly worth it. And that'll make this a very, very special Shavuos. A real Kabbalah Sataradik Shavuos. A good Chodesh, a good Voch, and of course, of extremely Matzliach Kabbalah Satara.